Welcome to the crossroads of grassroots gravel and blue-collar bikepacking. I'm Matt, your host, and this is the Gravel Warfare Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to part 2 of the Kansas Cannonball 550 edition of the Gravel Warfare Podcast. I'm back at the Blind Tiger Brewing Company, again with Andy Phillips, Lance Toby, myself, Matt Burris, and our wonderful, kind guest host, Marylou Bosveld. Marylou, once again for part 2, I'm going to turn it over to you. We're going to talk about some hydration, nutrition, and gear of ultra bikepacking, the Cannonball 550. Take it away.
All right. Well, thanks, Matt. Thanks, fellas, for having me. Listen, we put out on social media some requests for specific questions. Much was asked about hydration and nutrition. And I just want to say I was really horrified. I started a list when you were talking in the episode 1 of things that you ate. And let me first say, I am not aware of an endurance bike nutrition company called Casey's. I will do due diligence on researching that. If it can fuel you ass clowns 550 miles, I'm thinking maybe I want this in my life. Some of the flavors included gummy bears, Sour Patch Kids, pizza, cold preferably, coffee in styrofoam cups, and energy shots. Somebody mentioned a steak, baked potato, and please, somebody tell me, for the love of God, a hot dog was eaten.
No.
Wow. I did not think there would be a line in the sand when it came to nutrition. So I'm a little horrified.
There's not a line in the sand.
I'm totally horrified by this diet, which just makes me that much more curious because you're riding literally in excess of 100 miles over the course of 24 hours. So aside from the Casey's endurance cycling nutrition stores, how are you fueling yourselves for these rides? What are you carrying on your bike? How do you fuel for an epic journey like this, Matt?
I've tried a lot of things over the years on a variety of races. My wife is a coach. She's really up on nutrition, hydration, things like this. I've taken suggestions from her, and as much as I hate to admit it, man, I have a bad stomach. It just does not handle things well. I've tried a lot of things, and I'm a puker.
Yes, I've heard that about you.
I throw up a lot on about every ride. I throw up a lot. Ridiculous amount of vomit happening over here.
Well, let's just clarify that what your wife recommends good food. That's the problem. She recommends like really good nutrition.
You can't do ultra racing on good food. Casey's is definitely where it's at. So I tried something for this ride, this race, this event. And I'd never tried it before, and honestly, it worked out really, really well for me. It's called tap water. What? Yeah, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but I think it's really easy to come by. It's super cheap, and you fill up bottles or maybe even a hydration bladder with tap water just out of the faucet. It works out really, really well. And for electrolytes, I actually supplemented salt stick. So I got some salt stick tablets and some salt stick gel caps. I got 2 different gel caps, one regular and one caffeinated, and I would switch to the caffeinated when the sun went down, basically. And I just kind of had a regiment of taking these about every hour, just pop a couple, just swallow it, no taste, and just regular water. It actually worked out pretty well for me from a hydration standpoint. I had very little cramps. We mentioned I had some IT issues, but that was not a cramp. That was, some specific pain. But the nutrition stuff, I carried some bars, I carried some things, everything I bought from Casey's, and I just decided when I got there, whatever sounded good, that's what I'm going to eat. So Little Debbie's, Gummy Bears, Sour Patch Kids, Nutty Bars, Fudge Rounds, pizza, whatever. You can eat whatever you want. You're burning a ton of calories. I'm no wilting flour anyway, so I don't really pay that much attention on a good day. But that worked out really well, and the salt stick product worked out really well.
Are you
me.
somebody who can you eat on a bike? Can you pedal, navigate, and eat a banana, a fudge round, if that's what it's called?
Yeah. Sometimes I will stop, just because I can eat on the bike. I don't have any issue handling the bike while I eat something. But sometimes I stop and have a snack. Sometimes I eat while I'm going. But I didn't really have a plan going in, just whatever sounded good.
Sure.
When I got to a feed point, a Casey's or anything. Just whatever sounds good, I kind of shoved in my bag. And I took way too much stuff. I packed way too much stuff. I bought too much stuff when I was there. The weight on my bike was ridiculous, and I certainly did not eat everything that I bought.
What about you, Lance? Are you packing any sort of sports nutrition, hydration, or are you into this TAP water?
Well, I guess something like this, it takes a few years to figure out what your body can runs on. I found I can usually eat any kind of I try to find something natural, food bars. That usually works good for me. There are certain things that will flip my stomach, but I did pack some electrolyte packets, use those. I did find at every Casey stop I would load one bottle full of sweet tea. That was a nice change of pace from all the other... Oh, sorry about that. I did find that the kick of sugar was kind of a nice change of pace. Get tired of the boring bars and very dry. So there's that. Definitely pizza at the stop is actually a nice welcome thing. So that's kind of your comfort food to get you going again. Tap water seems to work well for me too, I will say. Thanks, Matt. That's a good one. Aside from that, it's usually just whatever sounds good. I did incorporate gummy bears this year. I had never tried that before, but I would shoot those in between eating something a little more solid. Kept me primed and going. Trying to think what else I would eat out there. Just pretty much
Are
anything.
you someone who can you eat on the bike as well? You can dig into your bag and pull out a granola bar.
Usually if it's got a wrapper, I'll go ahead and rip it open before I take off. So I have 4 bars prepped and ready to easy access. It's no fun crashing while you're diddling with a package wrapper and then trying to clean up the mess. So that's pretty much everything I do. But usually at the stop, you just kind of figure out, okay, how many more miles I got to go, grab enough bars to cover the distance, and eat some pizza, drink some water, reload all your water.
It must be nice to be a dude with dude metabolism and burn in like 2,000 calories an hour. Because I sure would like to try this Casey's joint out. Andy, talk us through your nutrition plan or lack thereof.
Noons and pizza. No, I pretty much, that's it. I had noons in my bag and pizza at the Casey's. It's kind of my go-to. I don't know. Then I have a bag. I always carry Gorp or trail mix, basically nuts and raisins, in my bag just in case I run out of all energy at some point and there's no convenience store or anything around. I unfortunately, about 150 miles into this ride, had a hole in my bladder on my backpack that leaked all down my back.
Oh.
So I could only fill it about halfway, which was fabulous. And I didn't get quite as much TAP water as the rest of these guys did. But I had enough, and then I just, if things were, really tough, it helps to just throw a Noon in your mouth. Just one of the tablets, just right into your mouth, drink a little water to keep you from looking like a rabid dog. And then,
Noon, if you're listening, the Gravel Warfare Podcast is accepting sponsorships. We'll represent your product well. No looking like a rabid dog.
And Noon may be the only legit sports nutrition sponsor out there that could fit this bill, because you guys should be writing for Casey's is what I'm saying here.
Well, when there's 16 of them in a tube, you pretty much got enough to make it through 550 miles. That and energy, like little shots, 5-hour energies or whatever, I'd have. But you kind of got to keep an eye on. I mean, too much caffeine make you a little jittery through the ride and a little hard to cope. But I'll stop for a burger at a cafe or whatever. I mean, again, in my mind, bike packing is an opportunistic adventure. So whatever you come across, if it looks good to you and you think you can eat it, you better be eating it because you need the calories. I mean, if you're brave enough to take on roadkill, hey, more power to you, but I'm not that guy.
Well, let me ask this. This is just a question I thought right off the bat here. It's a lot of hours by yourself. Starting off, I mean, you're pedaling 1 through 550 plus miles. Is anybody listening to music, podcasts, and or tell me some of the things that are occupying your mind early, mid to late race, Matt?
I took a Bluetooth speaker with me, strapped on the handlebars, so I could put Pandora on it and turn it up really loud. I saved it specifically for night riding, not ride at dark, but as I got tired, I would turn it on. I'd turn the music up really loud, and then the very last night, I saved it specifically for the last 50 miles of the race. I know from training, the speaker, the battery will last 50 miles pretty easily. And that was like it was a treat for me. Mm-hmm. So it was, I told myself, okay, when you have 50 miles left, you're going to turn on the radio. And that was something that I could then shoot for. And I could go, okay, when I get there, I'm going to turn on the radio. There's my reward. So I'm pedaling for this reward. And then I did that. So I had a speaker, but I didn't rely on it. I didn't lean on it. I wanted it to last. I saved it for specific times as a reward for myself and something to help keep me awake at night. I don't know. You think about a lot of things when you're out there, but I tried to leave the music as a reward and only listen to it when I thought I really needed it.
Just share with me, because I do know that over this time we could probably do an entire podcast just on the psychological piece of this, your thoughts and concerns, anxieties, but just at least share with us, like, did you have some sort of an epiphany? Did you have a hallucinogenic vision? Did you have the voice of reason,
if
the
you're
hand of
referring
God?
to the mountain lion, that was real. That was 100% real. I stand by that. It was not a hallucination. I've got farmers in Sedan who will back me up on this. They do exist. Nothing real. No hallucinations. I wasn't molested by any banjo playing hillbillies or anything along the way.
Well, thank goodness for that.
But no, I don't know. You just, I guess, think about the next town. Think about your goals. You think about a lot of things. I actually enjoy being off of social media, being alone with your thoughts, pushing yourself to the limits there and just cycling for the next reward or the next town or the next point in that race, all the while getting yourself closer to the end and finding that mental breaking point. Like I mentioned before in episode number 1, the mental breaking point. That's what I went there to find. And in some ways I found it in Casey's in Mountain City, Kansas, and then again in Osawatomie. But in another regard, I finished the race. So did I find it? I don't know. Not in 550 miles. I guess not.
Yeah.
So
sounds like another race could be in your future if we're looking for that mental breaking point.
We'll find out.
Lance, what about you? Are you music? Are you podcasting? Are you one man deep in thought? And did you have an epiphany or any other mental shareable moment?
Yeah. For me, it is just me and my thoughts writing. That's. I've never tried music or anything. Just it's one more thing I have to mess with. So I've just never gone down that road. As far as, I guess we'll call it travel fatigue, is probably the good word for it. And seeing things you think are there but are not, and it turns out to be something else. So I was at about Neosho Falls, which that was probably about 35 miles out to the end.
Okay.
And I'm riding down this road, and I see a car's headlights go off up ahead, and then I can see a guy getting out of the car. And I look, and I go, oh, that's Matt from Gravel Guru, because I can see his square glasses and has this big grin on his face. It's like, yeah, that's Matt from Gravel Guru. And I'm just like, hey! And I hear someone ringing a cowbell, and I can't see the other guy, and I'm just like, oh, wow, so they came out on course. That's kind of cool. I rode on by, didn't think nothing of it, and just at that point, you turn on to hard ball, cruise along, and then all of a sudden I can see car headlights, blaring behind me and a car racing up beside me. And it comes up, and some guy with a phone hanging out the window filming me, and I realize, oh, that's Damien Boley, Smithville Co-op. And then I realized, oh, that's Ty Bragg over there driving. And I was telling him, hey, guys, I just saw Gravel Guru just around the corner. Did you see him? Of course, I had no clue. They start laughing. I'm busy riding my bike because I don't have time to dink and talk with these guys. I'm moving. So I ended up turning, heading off. It wasn't until I crossed the line that Ty comes up to say something to me. He said, hey, I'm Gravel Guru. Did you know that? And then it all clicked. I went, oh, that was you guys back there. So my brain, for whatever reason, where I was at, what I was thinking about, said, that's so-and-so. That's
nice.
What he looks like. But that's the first time I'd ever experienced that. I just totally clipped out. Just, anyway. That's my story.
Nice. I like it. Andy, are you listening to music? You just a man lost in thoughts? And did you see your equivalent mountain lion on the course?
I did not see a mountain lion on the course. I don't listen to music. I don't listen to podcasts. I like to listen to what's around me. So I prefer just to hear the sounds of nature, people coming up behind me on a bike or whatever the situation is. I did come around the corner on the 550 and saw a bunch of deer there. So like a doe and two little deer. And I had my light on. It was night. And so, or not totally dark, but like dusk. And so I'm riding up to him. And the mom and the younger, or maybe the younger, I don't know, they looked about the same age as two little deer, took off running in opposite directions. And one literally runs straight at me. Like straight at me, charging, just running. And I'm like, whoa, I hit the brakes, I'm just going, what the heck is going on? And literally I hear its hooves smack the gravel on either side of my tire and like, whoa, what are you doing here? And turns around and takes back off the other way. And I'm like, man, I'm glad I wasn't a car. You'd be dead, yo. And, no, I just listen to, lost in thought. Don't listen to anything. I don't like music in my ear because it just distracts from all the other things you can hear out there. That's just how it is for me. And then it's another battery.
Right.
One more thing to charge.
Yeah.
And I don't run a dyno hub or anything like that, so I'm pretty much 100% on a cash battery, a 20,000 amp hour.
Sure.
Anchor cash battery is what I use, and so that's enough to get me through the 550, but not charging a whole excess of things.
Sure.
So that'll cover my phone and my Garmin.
Well, that brings us up to a good point. Of course, folks want to talk a little bit about gear. So, and we have a really unique advantage here in that we had folks with different perspectives on how they were going to camp or hotel or opportunity, right? So, Matt, talk to us a little bit about gear. I am not a bike packer, and I think this is a great episode to share with us potentially what somebody like me who's not bike packed, but I do have open range coming up. It's a 2-day event. It's not comparable mileage-wise to the Cannonball, but I do need to take into consideration sleep, change of clothes. So just give us an idea of what specifically is strapped onto your frame, what a person like me should consider given anything from maybe a 200 to a 600-mile race or ride.
I would love to think of myself as a minimalist bike packer, but ultimately I'm not. I like gear. I love gear. I love gadgets and widgets and all kinds of stuff. I made it a specific point on this particular ride after I had committed that I'm not going to buy any new gear, which is really hard for me because I love the opportunity to go and buy new gear. Oh, I got this big ride coming up. I should go get something new. I should go to REI. I should get on Amazon, find something good. But I made a decision not to buy any new gear. I borrowed a full frame pack. I used a bivy sack from my military sleep system that I picked up used years and years ago, and it's not light and it doesn't pack down well. I used a Frog Tog rain suit that I had, and I tried to go as minimalistic on clothing as I could. I tried to put a bladder in my frame bag instead of the traditional hydration pack. The pack on the shoulders hasn't worked out for me well in the past in even just a 100-mile ride, and so I didn't want to carry a backpack. So I tried a hydration bladder in my pack, and I had a hose ran to the cockpit and tried to, and I used that for about half the ride. I ended up just leaving that empty and putting some water bottles inside there. It didn't work out as well for me as I had hoped. Electronic-wise, I also don't have a dyno hub. I carried a cache battery, and I went a little heavy on the electronics. I don't own a Garmin. I have a small Lezyne that I think works really well, but I hadn't used it on anything to this extent, so I was a little nervous. So I took my Lezyne. I also took my wife's Garmin. I also took another handheld Garmin that I didn't use at all. But that was my backup, and of course I had the cell phone, so probably went a little heavy on electronics for fear of navigation, not knowing how the route was going to load. I've made mistakes before, and I knew there wasn't going to be a clear trail to follow or anybody to follow, so I went heavy on electronics, probably heavy on hydration and nutrition, overpacked on water, overpacked on food.
How many mounts do you have on your frame for water bottles?
So with the full frame pack, I didn't have any mounts
okay.
for water bottles. I had a bladder in the back, and then I stuck a water bottle in my jersey and just ran one water bottle. And I had a little bit of hydration I took with me, some kind of mix. The bladder I just put water in. Anything I mixed I put in the bottle, including if I stopped at a gas station and I wanted a Coke or I wanted a Gatorade, I just put that in my water bottle because I could rinse that out a lot easier than the bladder. One thing Lance, I don't remember at what point on the race, Lance said he had been drinking sweet tea, and I'm not a sweet tea drinker. If I drink tea, I don't really want anything in it. But when he said that, it actually sounded good. And I did try some sweet tea the last day, and that actually worked out pretty good as well. So I had some Coke and some sweet tea, and just a lot of electronics and kind of a heavy bivy sack, a rain suit, and basically one change of clothes. My goal was to try to alternate bib shorts every day, and I think I only took one jersey, bathroom pack,
A little hygiene kit.
Little hygiene kit, and my bike was heavy. I probably overpacked. Since then, I've kind of developed this system of packing where if you get out everything that you want to take, your wish list, get it all out, and set it on the floor, and then just draw a line down the middle and get rid of half of it. And then wait another day and get rid of half of the other half and take that. That's probably about the right amount of stuff.
I like that. That's pretty good. We have a really good, I just thought we should put some of Lance's talents here to use, and then I'm going to let Andy finish up what the kind of the packing list here. But since you're the bike mechanic, we've got an idea of your lack of nutrition and reliance on tap water, your lack of training plans, but high mileage. So I'm going to let you, with your experience as a mechanic in many of these events, talk us through what needs to be packed on a ride like this, given you're going to have zero support and with some minimal knowledge and maybe a YouTube tutorial, you could make some repairs on said bike. What are we including in our packing?
As far as how to maintain the bike?
Sure.
Oh, well, a flat kit and a chain repair and chain lube. That's all I got.
That's all you got?
That's all I got.
Wow.
If it's anything more than that, you're either calling in a evac or...
We'll be a little more specific. When you say flat kit, let's unpack this. People
sure.
Know.
What we're doing a flat kit, a lot of people run tubeless, and that's what I ran. I carried one tube. And then I carried some plugs, which I had never used before. But I thought, well, I'll take them, and who knows, I might need them. I did take about a 4-ounce bottle of sealant.
Okay.
And then also, what else? Just chain repair. What else?
So that's like that wolf tool. You mean something to take your chain apart?
I took Leatherman pliers.
Okay. This MacGyver.
Well, the Leatherman pliers has more than just, you got knives, you got other things on there that are handy for all kinds of stuff. Hopefully, the mountain lion, I'd have a knife, but I mean, the 10 minutes to get it. Anyway.
You better pack a lunch. That sucker looks pretty mean to me.
Yeah.
You got your Leatherman knife. You better pack a lunch on that deal.
You have lunch on that deal.
What was the rest of your question? Go ahead.
I have, so I always want to bring some oil, right? Because chain lube,
every
okay,
night,
right? Because sometimes you have water crossings.
Right.
It's super dusty.
Sure.
Guys, help me. How do I pack that stupid little bottle in my frame pack and it not leak everywhere? Like I put it in a little Ziploc and over time it eats through the Ziploc.
You put a second Ziploc over it.
Oh, wow.
So you just put another one.
Oh. You know what I just thought would be good? A condom. How good would that be?
There you go. A little
We've-
bread twister on the end.
We actually teased this on another podcast, the Dirt Road Debutante Gravel Academy podcast. The Gravel Warfare Boo Boo bag that I give all the ladies. I have a special way that I carry the
lube.
chain lube. Maybe we'll do a YouTube video on that someday, and I'll share my secrets with everybody on the best way to carry individual chain lube packets.
Yeah, that would be beneficial. Andy, what are these knuckleheads missing in their discussion on gear? You, I think, probably do a significant amount of bike packing, and you could probably do an entire podcast on gear. But for this specific, the Cannonball 550, what do we need to talk about for our listenership?
Learn to wing it.
Duct tape and pliers.
Yeah, I mean, I took a Leatherman-like tool, you know. I mean, it's a Schrader or whatever, but it's a pair of a multi-tool, pair of pliers with a knife, and you know that type of thing. A bottle opener, of course, because you got to have beer. And
Cheers.
Absolutely. But I generally try to take as little as possible. I always take 2 pair of shorts because, like, if one gets, for instance, I probably should have changed my shorts in Mound City with the dry pair that I actually had. But instead, no, I decided, I'll just wear the pair that I had the day before that got all wet and full of gravel. That'd be great. Hence the extreme pain on the last day riding to Topeka. But I just think that you just got to be flexible. You know, you could, I carry plugs and I carry extra sealant and I carry for a flat repair. I carry like 6 ounces of extra sealant and then plugs and, but in my experience over the years, there's a time when you just got to put a tube in that thing. Because you're not going to get it fixed out on that gravel road with all that grit. By the time you break your bead loose and you put it back on, I guarantee you've got gravel grit all in that edge, and it's not going to seat good. And you are just going to fight it forever. It's going to be a thorn in your hind end till the end. You're better off just put a tube in it and be done. As far as water, I actually, even out on the 550, had a Sawyer mini filter with me. So I could have filtered water out of a ditch if I wanted to. Water is very, very important. You should have water, access to water or some way to get water, even if it's out of a ditch at all times. Food. I don't worry about food so much. I mean, from everything that I've read, even like an elite ultra distance rider who's slim, has almost no fat, has enough fat on their body to last 2 days. Mm-hmm. So, how much?
This is like the Bear Giles of.
Are you really within 2 days on the 550? Are you within 2 days of getting some food? Yes, very much within 2 days of getting some food.
But Casey's Pizza.
Well, if you got Casey's Pizza, eat it. I'm not saying don't eat. I'm just saying if you run out of food,
it's not the end of the day.
Yeah, it's not the end of the day. You're good. Your body has enough fat on it to sustain. Think about our ancestors, hunter-gatherers, that, would go literally 2 days without eating and to gather food for their tribe or whatever, I mean, we're not built necessarily to have to eat every hour on the hour.
I think Andy should have like an endurance bike packing clinic where you just show up.
Where you
Bring a bike or don't.
Were
I
you-
can show you how to complete an endurance ride
Yeah, we're
without
all
a
gonna
bike.
eat this roadkill and drink water out of a ditch.
He's the guy who was like filtering his own piss. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love, like, he's got a use for everything. I love it, and I'm signing up for that clinic.
my own piss. Sorry.
I'm signing up for
Too
that.
much alcohol in there.
I'm starting to think even I could do this event. You know, like this isn't
But,
rocket science here.
Well, and I think that it's all really about what can you handle? I
Sure.
mean, and everybody can handle more than they think.
Yes.
It's it's really not that. It's about getting over the psychological of it. I mean, really, I've ridden several hundred miles. Well, I've ridden over 200 miles on a Cliff Bar and some water. I mean,
Sheer determination.
No, not sheer determination. No other freaking choices. I mean, look, either you're going to die out here in the wilderness or you're going to keep pedaling. I mean, that's just all there is to it. But, I think that everybody has that ability. You're not restrained. And that's kind of what I go on bike packing, really, is just, look, man, even if, first off, we're in Kansas. This isn't Wyoming. It's not 125 miles to the next place. Like, seriously, in Wyoming, it could be 125 miles to the next, like, civilization that you can find water at. Like, we're not there. You got 30 or 40 miles. You're going to run across the Casey's or something.
If you're in Kansas and you stop anywhere on a gravel road and you wait approximately an hour and a half, somebody's going to be buying a Jeep and they're going to have a cooler of Busch Light or something. And there's a lot of calories there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though it's light beer, I mean, it can sustain life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think, I guess I don't take all this stuff too seriously, I just exactly like I said in the start. Look, man, I saw 2 days or 3 days before. Oh, look, they're having the Cannonball 550. Oh, I could make it this year.
I'm free this
I don't have
weekend.
stuff going on. Yep, sign me up. Okay. Oh, look, they're having a little meeting beforehand. I'll go to that. What the heck? Sounds good. I just showed up at the thing and showed up at the start and went. I didn't have a whole lot of planning or anything in between, but again, I don't necessarily know that is for everybody. I've got quite a bit of bike packing experience. I mean, I kind of started off with minimal bike packing experience and did the Tour Divide. And, that's a heck of a wake-up call. I could certainly remember times when I was so low on food and water that I was dizzy and couldn't even navigate coming into certain towns on the Tour Divide. And I still made it through all that, so it's just it's not really as hard as everybody makes it out to be. Like I said before, you just kind of have to be an opportunist.
Sure.
And
it
whatever
is
the
about
opportunity is, if that opportunity is a ditch with water and you've got a Sawyer mini filter some water and get yourself some water, man. Don't go thirsty because that's going to wreck your kidneys and all kinds of other things. It's not going to be pleasant for you, I mean, this is like running out of water is how people die.
Sure.
Seriously, not running out of food. As long as you've got some kind of hydration, you're going to make it, certainly in Kansas, to the next place.
Yeah.
You know.
You bring up a good point. I want to talk about injuries or the physical fatigue and its effects. I am very aware of Matt's. IT band issue and how debilitating, here day one, you crank out 200 miles and then kind of all hell breaks loose with your IT band. So let's just kind of go around the table here and talk to me if you had, what those physical limitations, were you able to work them out? What was that like?
There's a difference in being hurt and being injured.
Okay.
And I was hurting, but I knew I wasn't injured. I knew when I stop pedaling the bike, my knee will feel better. So the temptation is always there to just stop pedaling the bike so you can get out of the pain. But I don't know how you know. You just know this isn't an injury. I'm just hurt. Nothing is going to be permanent. This is a temporary thing. And I think using that logic, I was able to go through that. But this ride was back in September 2020. Here we are in March 2021. I still have a couple numb fingers. I still have a couple of toes that occasionally go numb. A lot of pressure points and things like that, fingertips and toes and stuff like that. I know that's because I didn't take care of myself the last day on the bike. I wanted to get done. I was cold. I didn't move around on my grips enough. I kind of seized up because it was cold, and I had that. So no real injuries, but just hurting. I'm very well aware that I probably could have mitigated some of that by training more. Perhaps riding with a loaded bike more. Perhaps not taking a bike that I wasn't super familiar with, having a better bike fit. I could have mitigated some of that, but I made it through. But again, there's a difference in hurt and injured. And if you think you're facing injury, well, I mean, it would be silly to push through. But if you're hurt, you can make it through that. Andy said you can do a lot more than you think you can. And it really is a mental ride. I think a lot of them are. And everybody has a different capacity for that mental ride. And every one that you complete, Andy is so much more experienced than either one of us in long distance stuff like that. And it's not a big deal for him at this point. He's been there, done that, suffered through this, and he can use that as a barometer of how much he's willing to suffer. I suffered a little bit on the Cannonball. I'm happy that I finished. But that's my barometer. I can use that as, okay, well, I've been through this, so I know what I can take.
Sure.
And that's a good thing to know about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Lance, did you have any ailments, injuries, psychological, physical?
Like Matt, I did end up with a couple tingly fingers even today, even right now. Yeah.
Really?
Just from being on the bar, moving around as much as you can, but it still took a toll there. So the one thing that I ended up with was at the end of the first day, the gravel was so rough, it was almost like every bit of gravel was pounding my butt.
Oh, yes. I love a good butt story.
So looking in the mirror that night, I would swear there were blood blisters on my butt.
Nice.
Right where the sit bones sit. I thought, oh man, this is going to be a long one.
We don't tell people of blood blisters.
No.
I'm going to stop you. I remember when Lance shacked up in Independence and Andy shacked up in Independence, and I kept going. I don't remember if it was later that night on my way to Sedan or the next morning when I got up, but Lance sent a text.
It was the next morning.
It was the next morning. Lance sent a text, and he goes, "My butt is black and blue." And I said, "Send me a picture." And he wouldn't do it. So I'm still not sure if he's making it up. I'm still sure if he's not making it up or not. But he told me that, and I kind of laughed. But he didn't send a picture. So no picture, no proof.
That's right.
I got a couple hours in the second day, and we were at the Little House on the Prairie. There's a historic site there and everything. And while I was there, I realized, hey, I got my other pair of shorts. So I'm kind of half stripping down on the other side of the cars on the highway side, putting on a second layer just to shield myself, and that helped a ton. So definitely something there that, it went away a couple days later, but that was probably the worst of it. The only thing I came away with was my Achilles on my left leg. The next morning I woke up after the event. I wake up to move that foot, and I happened to have my hand on the back of my leg, and it felt like a rusty cable sliding. I went, oh my God, what did I do? So someone that's probably tendonitis. You need to stay off of it. And then it was Sean Morelli was in the shop one day, and she said, oh yeah, you need to get off the bike for 2 weeks.
Wow.
I went, oh, well, thank you, Sean. So that was really the only withstanding or anything lingering from it.
Sure.
Other than that, I luckily never went down, never had a problem. Just a little bit of numminess.
And a bruised butt.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Alleged bruised butt.
Alleged until we see the photos.
Yeah.
Maybe Lance will share them on the Gravel Warfare Instagram.
I have no photos. You just have to take my word.
Andy, did you suffer any injury, ailments?
My left hand, the ring finger and pinky finger were numb for. I have feeling in them now, so.
Wow.
I don't know when it came back, but it's all good now, which is kind of interesting. I did the whole Tour Divide on curly bars and never lost feeling in my hands. But on the Cannonball, I lost feeling for probably 6 months in my pinky and ring finger there.
We have a great question here from a fellow race promoter and gravel enthusiast who'd kind of like, let's speak his language and let's give each of you an opportunity to kind of compare, contrast, or what was done well about the Cannonball 550 versus another endurance or ultra event that you've participated in, Lance. He's like never paying attention.
I was going to say the longest I've ever done was the Cannonball. Prior to that was DK. And the question was, I think I just like the whole nature of it, that it just show up and go. That's probably one of the best things about it. Sometimes this getting signed up for the event is always kind of just a lot of headache and a lot of, I got to get people here, there, and there. If you just go do it yourself, it's like, that was a lot more fun. I just did it. I didn't have to mess with it. So
took a little of the pressure off.
Yeah, it really put it all on the rider to figure it all out. And that's what I kind of liked about it, was I didn't have to worry about a support crew not being there in time or anything like that. It was just on me to figure it out, and I took care of it. So that was kind of fun.
Andy, you've done a lot of ultra events, so maybe pick one or just some key takeaways, how the Cannonball compared to, what did you like about that endurance event versus some of the others, or what could be improved upon?
Well, I love self-supported endurance events. That's just me personally. I like the, ride until you find a place. I just like every aspect of it, and that you're responsible for you. Like, if you want to stop at a Casey's, go ahead. If you want to stop at a motel and stay at the motel instead of camping in a tent, that's great. I like that it's kind of all-inclusive, that it includes, like, everybody. I mean, even on the Tour Divide, people have done the Tour Divide in a hotel-to-hotel fashion. You don't necessarily have to camp. There's no rule that says you have to do that. And that's kind of what I like about the self-supported events. That, and it's just kind of we're doing this on this day. If you want to show up and do it, great. If you don't make it, well, that's okay. We'd love to see you here, but that takes a lot of the pressure off, like Lance was talking about. You know, if something comes up in the middle of the thing and you just can't make it out there, you're not out 60 or $100, or in the case of Unbound Gravel now, 200 plus.
Sure.
You know, and so that's a big deal for me because, well, I do house maintenance, and so I'm always on call. And so that could be that, you know, there's a serious emergency with somebody's house that they need me there right now, and I might not be able to make that event that I paid $200+ out for, you know. Well, in my world, that's a big amount of money, you know, but if I don't make an event that was free, well, I just didn't make it. It's kind of a bummer, but, you know, I didn't lose any money over it. And so that's kind of my, you know, style of event that I like the most, really, is the self-supported aspect of it. You just show and go.
Now, you've participated in some Tour Divide, I would imagine, attracts, hundreds, if not thousands of riders, or?
Hundreds.
Okay.
Well, be probably pretty good showing to have 100 people at the Grand Depart.
Okay.
I mean, not a lot of people say, hey, I'm going to ride 2,700 miles in less than a month.
Sure.
So that kind of weeds out a lot of people. But again, you don't necessarily have to ride it in less than a month, you know, but I think people want to compete at the highest level, or they don't want to do it at all. And so I just, you know,
you like the grassroots feel to it and less pressure to participate.
Yeah, and then
any improvements?
And certainly the grassroots feel of it all. You know, I mean, really, when it comes down to it, like grassroots gravel, self-supported. If you really think about it, you're kind of supporting the entire community around that area. Every town you stop in benefits. Every Casey's you stop at benefits, you know, from you stopping and buying a slice of pizza and a Coke or whatever it is that you get, because you're one more person. And maybe 100 people stop through there for the event or whatever. But certainly some of these smaller towns in Kansas don't see a whole heck of a lot of people stopping through them. So it's a boost for them. And that's the type of thing that I enjoy, is when it's when it's a boost for the entire economy of the town, just because you rode through there, and then getting to see the entire country, really. Like in my case, you know, I mean, from a bike is a totally different standpoint. It puts the whole, it's all about the journey, not the destination, into perspective. You know. Let's face it. You left Emporia. You're going back to Emporia. Who cares?
Enjoy the stuff in between.
It's all the places in between. It's the people that you meet. It's the adventures that you have. It's the deer that almost runs into your handlebars, or the bobcat or wildcat that you see along the way. You know, I mean, these are the things that make life more full.
Oh, I love
that.
know?
And that make it more interesting, the people that you meet along the way. It's not necessarily the event, you know. I mean, I've done 5 DKs, you know. In some respect, every one of them's kind of the same as the last, you know. Dusty, dirty, meet up with the wife at X miles, and, you know. But that's not the way it is for, say, like the Cannonball or the Tour Divide, or, you know, every year has different weather.
Yeah.
And especially like if you're doing a Cannonball, well, just like Matt and I encountered, you don't necessarily know for sure that it's going to rain or not. I didn't bring rain pants. Boy, I kind of wish I would have, but, you know, when you're out there and it's raining, the only thing you can do is keep pedaling. You know, I mean, there's complaining that you didn't bring pants makes no difference. It doesn't make your legs any warmer. The only thing that makes you warmer is to keep pedaling, you know. And that kind of takes all that out of it. You know,
Yeah.
it makes it irrelevant. That you
Sure.
know,
So am I hearing like you put the Cannonball 550 at like above some of your DK experiences? Like where on, you know, your top 3, does it meet your top 3 experiences so far?
absolutely.
Well, that's nice. I'm sure they would love to hear
I
that.
actually believe that, and of course, this will probably raise a lot of controversy, but I believe that the DK is designed to finish.
Mm-hmm.
Cannonball 550 is not designed to finish.
Mm-hmm.
It's designed to put you to the test.
Yeah.
It's designed to train for the Tour Divide. Tour Divide is not designed necessarily to finish.
Mm-hmm.
If you do, great for you. It's like a true challenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas, like, yeah, you ride, okay, so like in the DK, you ride 200 miles in a day. Okay. But you've got 3, if I'm not mistaken, 3 separate SAG stops where they cater to you.
Sure.
Why? Because it's the guy you've set up.
Right.
Whoever it is, that's your SAG stop. Like, and you've put all your materials there. Like,
And you got
think
time
need-
checks, right? If you don't make the checkpoints within a certain time, you're going to
Exactly.
get turned away, right?
Yeah. So like you've put whatever you like there. This isn't showing up to Casey's at 8:00 at night going, you got some cold pizza for me? Oh, look, there's Coke. You know,
Sure.
it's not, you know, it's really not putting you to the test. You know, I mean, it's 100-miler with 100-mile.
Matt, what are your thoughts on the compare, contrast, your observations with some of the other endurance events that I know you've done the MR 340, and that was specifically where this question came from, but boy, Andy sure opens the door up for some further discussion on thoughts about kind of the pros and cons of the 550 and how it stacks up with other
So
events.
previous to the Cannonball 550, my only ultra endurance event that I've ever done was the MR 340, the Missouri River 340. For those of you who do not know, it's a kayak race on the Missouri River from Kansas City to St. Louis. They put a time limit on that race of 80 something hours. I did that with my wife in a tandem pedal drive Hobie kayak in, I think, 2015 as a
Marriage tester.
it was kind of a marriage tester. That was really our first introduction to any kind of ultra endurance thing, and we did it in right at 50 hours, which was kind of our goal, and we did that. This was a different thing. Being solo, for one thing, you know, doing that as a tandem race, and this is a solo race, a different thing. That is a water event. It's on the Missouri River. If you just stop pedaling or paddling, whichever boat you're in, you're still making headway, right?
Sure.
Even if you stop, as long as you stay in the boat, you're still moving towards the finish line. If you stop pedaling your bike, you're not going anywhere. So it takes a little bit to get things packed up and get back on the bike and keep moving. You're solo, that makes a different thing. Weather was similar on the MR 340. We had a lot of hot weather. The year we did it was tremendously hot. 115 degree heat index.
Wow.
A lot of people succumbed to heat exhaustion and pulled out of the race. We had a bad thunderstorm. We saw people pulled off to the side of the river, and we kept going right down the middle. You know, maybe a good decision, maybe not a good decision, not sure. We didn't get struck by lightning, so it worked out for us. I think Bobby Thompson, who planned this Southeast Cannonball route, did a really good job, because there were some sort of town with some level of amenities approximately every 40 miles. And that was nice, because you didn't have to carry a lot. I mentioned I overpacked with food and water, other things, but honestly, this was a great ultra endurance thing to try. No cost, low barriers to entry. amenities every 40 miles. It worked out really, really well, and I had a tremendous time. Yeah, there's no fanfare at the finish line, but that's not why any of us do this, I don't think. I think you do it to test yourself. You do this to test your gear, test your equipment, your intestinal fortitude, and it's a great ride. Mm-hmm. I really had a good time. I got to be honest, I want to do something else. I like the ultra endurance thing. There's some level of fear, obviously, having numb fingers and extremities and, things that can happen to you on the course. If you're not scared a little bit, maybe it's not worth doing. I don't know. Mm-hmm. This is the first thing I've ever tried that I honestly was not sure I was going to finish. I did the DK200. I didn't set any records, but I was pretty sure I was going to finish. Mm-hmm. I did the MR340. I wanted to do it under 50 hours, which we did. I wasn't sure I would be able to do that, but I thought I could finish within the allotted time. Mm-hmm. This thing, I wasn't sure I could finish. And there was 2 times on the course where I really thought I might not. Mm-hmm. And that means a lot. Powering through that is a pretty cool thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially given, like we said, the lack of support on the course itself, the fact that, I don't know, there were maybe less than 12 people signed up to do this ride.
I think it was in the 20s, but as far as finishers.
Okay. So, I mean,
there was maybe 12 finishers in the whole
event,
Cannonball.
Unlike many that attract a couple hundred at the start, and you may run across several individuals or small groups of people. I mean, you're like you said, you had creative freedom in where you chose to stay. There was no set course other than your start here, follow your GPS, and you end here. Folks want to know if you plan on doing this again. You riding again this year?
So, I mentioned there were 2 times, once in Mound City, once in Ottawa, that I really thought I'd reached my limit and I wanted to quit. And I'm glad I didn't quit. I made it all the way to the end, and I'm glad I didn't quit. If I would have quit, I would have felt some overwhelming urge that I have to do this again, that I have to complete this race. I've already completed it. Mm-hmm. I'm thankful that I did it, because now I never have to do it again. Mm-hmm. But I'm probably gonna.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna go back because it was a lot of fun. But I don't have to. I've already done it. I could cross it off my bucket list right now. But I'm kind of thinking I'm gonna go back. It's a different route this year. They're doing the OG route, the North Loop. Mm-hmm. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is around from Emporia, around Topeka, around Manhattan, somewhere up north, the northern Flint Hills, perhaps more elevation than this southeast route. I'm probably going back.
Yeah, it just sounds like it's in keeping with your carefree planning or lack of planning, training. It's an opportunity.
I'm going to plan a little bit more this time.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
I'm going to probably
feel a little better.
Change up my gear a little bit. I've already changed my bike up a little bit. I'm going to try to drop a little weight in gear, drop a little weight in bike, and probably make more of a plan going into it. Yeah. And just then keep my fingers crossed and eat a bunch of pizza. And
support Casey's. Support Casey's. Lance, what are your thoughts? Are you riding this again this year, or have you set the bar higher, lower?
I would say I am definitely keeping it on the radar.
Okay.
I mean, and of course, something comes up in life that negates that, whatever. Yeah. But I, too, would like to ride this year because they're doing the original route, and that goes out west. That's really what kind of drew me in the first time. I would say probably what I learned on this ride. It's just amazing what you learn and what you can do. and how to reapply that in maybe a more efficient way.
Yeah.
That's probably the big thing is cleaning up your act a little bit, trimming it down. And it's weird to think of it as a race, but yet it sort of is. There's this personal in our heads we got going on that we want to do this much or finish it at this time. I really have no inkling or any desire to actually be first.
Yeah.
Or to be the first finisher, I should say. I don't know if they really give out any. Well, they do give an award for first finisher, don't they? But it just, to refine the plan, do it a little better, cleaner, see if I can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Andy, is this on your list of rides this year?
It's in the calendar.
All right.
Doing it this year is my plan. I don't imagine I'm going to have anything come up. I just, I like the tour divide kind of format that is totally self-supported. You're on your own. That's really what I like. And the free aspect, to me, I feel like it seems like there's really not that much to putting together a route on a GPS. What, you jump on Ride with GPS, you put together a little route, send it out to everybody? Okay, great. See what everybody does. That's
Sure.
grassroots at its finest. That's greatness right there, and then charge nobody for it and give out no awards.
It sounds like we have a new race promoter here.
That's freaking spectacular, that's the greatest thing ever, and you don't have to be out there for 30 days. That's even better. I plan to do it again, and
Good for you.
And several more other races this year. I'll be up in Smithville for the 200 and be in Nebraska for the long voyage, and I've got quite a few races on my radar this year. But definitely the Cannonball is near and dear because it's in Kansas, and I was born and raised in Kansas, and I try to do the local rides, really, that support Kansas. Some of these smaller towns just don't get a lot of support. And certainly I've done like the Cottonwood 200, which some aren't really familiar with, but to hear guys in Council Grove talk about how much money that it influxes coming from the tour or from the Cottonwood 200 and how much that makes a difference in Council Grove, it's a big deal to Kansas communities that are small to have a ride come through that, well, if you think about it, maybe they got 1,000 people or 1,500 people as their population. Well, you let 200 to 500 more folks through. What do you think that does to their, economy? That's a big deal. It doesn't matter if you're shopping at Casey's or DQ or whatever. Local people are employed there, And that's a good thing for Kansas, I think, and I'm all about that. So definitely in on that. And then all these rides are just in my backyard.
Sure.
Whether it's Nebraska, Missouri, Kansas, it's my backyard. So, I generally it's a 500-mile diameter or 250-mile radius is about what I consider as a ride that's close enough to bike pack to.
So the pre-ride.
Yeah, riding to the start line and starting, and so that includes everything in Kansas, Arkansas, Missouri, Nebraska. And I'm just all about it, just give some support to all these folks all along the way, whether you're working at a Casey's or at a Pizza Hut or whatever at the local bar and grill. A couple more guys coming through is kind of a big deal. You may not realize it, but it really is. generally have like a 10,000 mile a year goal. And this year I bumped it up to 12, so I am definitely looking for all the opportunities I can get to reach that.
That's insane. Good for you. And it sounds to me like, in the perfect world, there's a lot more people participating in this Cannonball this year.
So I think there's kind of a groundswell for this. I don't know what has spurred it, but I've heard a lot of people talking about the Cannonball since we did it, and in particular, I know several local to the Kansas City metro area. I can think of at least 3 women off the top of my head that are going to do it. Now, there have been women do it in the past. I don't think last year, am I right, guys? I don't think there was any women who did this race last year. Previous to that, Katie Strimke did it and won it, and I think there was at least one other woman who did it. But last year, there were none, and now I know at least 3 local Kansas City women who are going to do that, and I've heard of several other guys who have never done it. So this year could be
a big swell.
Could be a fairly good sized swell in this Kansas Cannonball. I think it is really growing some legs, and I think that's awesome to have another local Midwest event that's growing and getting some popularity and really getting people out on bikes with low barriers to entry and really just testing themselves.
I really love how you guys just really are the epitome of who should ride this, right? Anybody, essentially, is what I'm hearing. Like you said, the low barriers to entry. Do you have a bicycle, and do you wish to test your mental, physical capabilities? And do you have the means to carry a water bottle and eat Casey's food? I think, it's free and it's available. And I think I've personally seen a big interest in the grassroots type rides. Things are cropping up on Facebook where, like you said, Andy, it's one guy who's gone out and loaded a Garmin course and says it's show and go. Park here, get your ride on, upload it to Strava, and high five yourself when you're done. And people are all over that, and that's just really, really good to hear in a time when it's hard to get out and be social until people wrap their minds around the COVID situation.
Well, I feel like that's where we need to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it shouldn't be a get-rich-quick scheme. If you want to go ride and you don't quite have a route in mind, or you don't know where to ride, or you don't know, there's a lot of rides out there that you can go and do what you want. If you want to, I can think of several 100-mile rides or metric centuries that are free that you can go do. Just get out there and do it. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? You could fail.
Right.
Well, I can tell you right now, there's no education in winning.
Yeah.
Seriously, you already knew what it took to win. Obviously, because you won. If you're going to get better, you don't get better by winning. Let's put it that way. You were already the best when you won.
Good point. Time we're in a little take here in between recording. There's a lot of giggle amongst you guys, and so before I throw out the last question I have on my list, I'm just going to do a free-for-all because I keep asking if there's some specific thing we need to go back to, and you keep telling me no, but then the giggling starts in between takes, and so I'm just going to give you an opportunity to get it off your chest. I asked if you wanted to talk about the water crossing, and then you talk about it. So I would not be doing my job facilitating this if I didn't give you a chance to free will and get it out there, that thing you want to share with your fans, Matt, on your experience.
I was wondering, who was the first one across?
See, there's
was it
contention
Andy or Matt?
here.
I can't remember. I was the last one across, so.
In flip-flops,
What are
I
we
heard.
crossing?
Well, it was
The water crossing?
Yeah, it was after
The
Fort
finish
Scott.
line?
It was after Fort Scott, and there was a small little type of river. It looked like an
I
old
think I was
rail.
probably the first one to cross. I remember I made it into Fort Scott, and it was the heat of the day. It was right at noon.
Okay.
And I was still, after riding all night to a sedan, I was still in really good positioning in the race. And then I got to Fort Scott, and I found a small grocery store, and I bought some supplies, and they had a awning covering the sidewalk, and it was really nice and shaded. And then I just laid down on the sidewalk on the cool concrete, and I woke up to some kid like kicking me, like thinking like, "Mom, is this guy dead?" And I'm like, "Hey kid, get out of here," And I watched kind of as several cyclists went by, and I thought, "Oh, this sucks." But I mustered it up, and you're right. There was one pretty decent water crossing on there, and as I'm coming up to it, I see that it's a water crossing. It's fairly deep. I'm thinking, do I want to take my shoes off? Can I ride this? I don't know. And I remember Joe Fox, who I don't know if any of the listeners know Joe Fox. Joe Fox owns Cycle City in Parkville, Kansas City Bike Shop. Joe Fox does a lot of ultra racing. He's done a lot of things. I think he won the DKXL the first year. He's done Tour Divide. He's done a lot of things. He's a very experienced rider. And I remember Joe Fox says, never ride a water crossing. You don't know what's below the water. You don't know. You can hit a tire. You can flip over. You can damage your bottom bracket. You can do all kinds of things. And then he proceeded to say, I ride every single water crossing, but you shouldn't do that. Do as I say, not as I do.
Right.
And I ride up to this thing, and I think, what would Joe Fox do? And I kind of pick a route, and then I turn my bike around, and I get a pretty fair run at it, and I think I can make it across there. And I did, but it was well over my bottom bracket when I finally splashed down. It was quite high, but I did make it through. But my shoes got wet, and everything got wet, and it was still fairly warm at that point. But I did make it through there. But it kind of, maybe in hindsight, Joe's probably right. You shouldn't ride the water crossings. You never know what's gonna come there. But I rode it, and it was fun. And I don't remember. I think I texted Lance a photo, perhaps, and I
Yes,
said,
you did.
"Good luck on this, Joker."
And you said your feet are going to get wet.
Your feet are gonna get wet.
I was like, oh boy. You remember?
I do remember. I came to the water crossing, and I thought, So I looked at my map, and back a little ways, I could connect to the road that's on the other side of the water crossing. And I thought, I'll just backtrack. Then I got about a quarter mile up the road, and I'm like, backtracking sucks. So I turned around, and I was like, it can't be that bad. And I'm looking at my map, and it looked like it crossed over in a deeper spot. And I was like, fuck that shit, man. I'm going to cross right here where it's... So I started riding, and then my front tire hit something, and I was like... I ended up putting my foot down, getting a foot all wet and everything, and then I crossed across there. But definitely, I must say, if you're doing a water crossing and you think you've got significant miles afterwards, you should take your shoes and socks off. Because your feet will dry out. Your feet will dry out rather quickly. Your shoes and socks will not.
So
There I was.
experienced the water crossing. I rolled up and remembered the picture Matt had sent me. And then I looked at it, thought about it, and said it's not worth falling over in this thing. And it was still morning for me. So it was cool, but I flipped off the shoes and put on my sandals. I just read a story about Lyle Wilcox, and she said any water crossing, she puts her sandals on and just carries everything and takes care of it. So I went across, very cold, but luckily when I got across, I took a picture of my feet, and it was right in the sunlight. It felt really good in the sunlight. I took off riding, got to the first paved road and looked up at the sign, and the name of the road was Payne. So, of course, yes. But there at that intersection is where I ended up putting on my dry socks, dry shoes, and carrying on. So
Nice. Very
worked
good.
out well.
Very good. Well, as I chose, in keeping with a previous interview in which I participated with you, Gravel Warfare, you like to know what people have named their bikes. And since this is the second episode of the Cannonball 550, if they may have forgotten what you ride. So what I'd like to do is a twist on that, and just in closing, remind us what you ride, Andy, what your bike's name is, and give us a visual. Who is that? Actor, actress, somebody we know, a character? I want to visualize who your bike is, so we have some perspective on your relationship.
I don't name my bikes.
Wow. Brutal. Oh.
However, the bike that I rode on the Kansas Cannonball is a Pt.2, and I had saved for years to get it. And actually, believe it or not, I built it at the same time that my oldest daughter, Kaylin, was born. So it does have some certain specific, and she's 16 now. So it has a certain specific meaning to me, But as far as naming my bikes, I generally don't name them. I mean, an interesting thing about bikes is that they are, I don't name them. They're kind of inanimate objects. I mean, really, until you get on them.
It's very
Okay. Yeah.
Until you get on them and make them move, they don't do shit. Sorry to say, but they don't do nothing. They sit in your garage, And so I don't name my bikes. I have two Moots. I have a Route 45 and I have a Pt.2 the Uno is the oldest. The 45 I've had for 4.5 years now. I don't name my bikes. I just, they have specific time frames. They came into my life, and that's important to me. But other than that, I just ride them a lot. The Moots has probably, I know it sounds astronomical to even think about, but it's probably got 70,000 miles on it now.
Wow.
And the 45 is about 5 years old, and it's easily got 50 on it. So,
nice.
Moots,
if you're listening,
I have a ton of miles on my bikes, and I actually only have 3 bikes. And in the last couple of years, I've only rode the 2 Moots. So I just haven't had time to get the Karate Monkey back riding again, But it's in the works. I'm getting it there. It just hasn't happened yet, But
yeah,
that's my bikes.
Lance, walk us through your situation
Well,
here.
let's see. Like Andy, I actually don't name my bikes.
Wow.
Over time, I just kind of, sometimes the color sticks, and we always say the orange bike or this bike or whatever. But it is an surly ogre. Got it so we could go ride part of the Continental Divide, not actually do the whole race, just do a tour. And I adapted it for this, ended up putting drop bars on it. Works much better. But it's the newest one in my stable. I don't have a lot of time other than the Cannonball. It was a shakedown run, really. So that's really what I got to say about that.
Does it have a personality? I mean, do you refer to it as a he, a she? Does it have a kind of personality?
It's the ogre.
It's the ogre. Yeah.
I
mean, I get a visual.
I love surly
Shrek.
bikes.
Yeah.
Surly bikes are steel. That's awesome.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt, what's your cycling relationship here?
So again, this particular bike on the Cannonball, and I think for the foreseeable future, if I'm doing any ultra endurance cycling, it's going to be on this Salsa Timberjack, titanium Timberjack. I'm a bike namer. I take pride in naming my bikes. I love naming my bikes. All my bikes have names. They have to. They kind of have to earn the names. The name of this titanium salsa timberjack is Trifold, and if you don't know who this is, if you're a Gravel Warfare listener and you don't know who this is, I'd suggest get on YouTube. Oh, get on YouTube, immerse yourself in this country music folk culture. My bike's name is Emmylou Harris.
Oh, yes.
A titanium bike. This baby's a silver fox. She's my red dirt girl, and she was born to run.
Nice.
Emmylou Harris is the name of this bike, and it is amazing. Awesome.
I love it. Gentlemen, thank you so much for allowing me to be part of your trip down memory lane, all 550 plus miles, 18,000 feet in elevation, almost 4 days of excitement in your lives. I'm very proud of your accomplishments that you pushed through physical, mental pain or anguish, and I really hope that you'll get out there and do great things again this year. Matt, I'll turn it over to you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, guys. Andy Phillips, by far the most experienced bike packer of the bunch. Lance Toby, myself, Matt Burris, and special thanks to guest host Marylou Bosveld. Amazing. I'm so glad to reunite with you guys. It's been too long. We've been too long getting this podcast in the works, but I'm so glad that we got it here. I can't wait to do it again. Kansas Cannonball 550, anyone?
Maybe.
Absolutely.
Here. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Gravel Warfare Podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And until next time, go ride your story.